Hi, and welcome back to In the Hot Seat with Emily Diala and Dr. Viviana Coles. I'm Emily, and this is Dr. Coles.
Hi, guys.
In case you've missed them, go back, scroll through all of our previous series that we've done. We've covered everything from relationship dynamics to sexual desire to female sexual difficulty, male sexual difficulty, sex
Infidelity.
addiction. I mean, we talked about it all. So definitely go back and take a look at some of our previous episodes. Today, we are going to talk a little bit about how to spice things up.
Sexually speaking,
Sexually
of course.
Yes.
This isn't a cooking show. So we're going to talk about, some tips for men, some tips for women, some tips for sexy communication.
Yeah.
I think it all starts there.
I do too. And you know what? Talking about sex can be one of the unsexiest things that you do, because I usually encourage my clients to do it when you're not distracted by, folding the laundry or doing the dishes. And I don't necessarily, there are times when you need to have some communication in the bedroom, but when it comes to bringing up like trying something new or giving your partner feedback, I usually say wait till you're out of bed.
Yes.
Because when we're in bed with another person, you're in a very vulnerable place.
And there's a performance aspect to it.
Right.
And who would want to be on stage getting feedback of, you're not loud enough. We can't see your face. That's going to totally throw things off.
Right.
But you know what? It could be, depending on what kind of time you have together or what kind of time you don't have together. It could be over lunch. It could be like when the kids go to sleep. And if you don't have any other time, maybe it does need to be when you're folding the laundry.
Right.
It's more important that it happens than when it happens. So if you're never able to talk about these things, I would not suggest texting or emailing about it.
Yes, please don't.
Unless you're sending over an interesting maybe article or little activity to do that you want them to read about. Sexy communication, you want to make sure that you're getting the intention across correctly. So if your intention is to entice, maybe don't use too clinical verbiage, and make sure that it's not like you're barking orders, unless you're into that sort of thing. We can talk a little bit about kink and light BDSM in a little bit.
Right. And I always encourage my couples to use the good old sandwich technique. So, if it's giving feedback about something you want to be different or a change that you would like to make, start off by talking about, hey, our sex life is something that I really enjoy. I think it's important. It's a time when I feel really close to you, but there's a couple of things that maybe I'd like us to try, or there's something I would like done differently. Would you be open to that feedback?
I love that. And I also try
and then ending with something positive.
Definitely end with something positive, maybe something tangible, like, oh, when you did that felt really nice, or I noticed that in foreplay this time you tried this, thank you so much. And also asking for some feedback, but not asking too often. We don't want to feel like you need a report card every time. And I have had clients who really do want feedback after every sexual experience, and this is years in. So that can be a little bit overwhelming for your partner as well, unless you think that you maybe hurt them, or unless you were trying something different and maybe didn't get feedback that they even noticed. I don't know that it needs to be like a report card every time.
No, I think that can be a little overkill.
That's a downer.
Right.
Now, as far as the actual sexual communication, focusing on comfort, focusing on any pain if there is pain, any sort of distress that you're feeling. If there was a particular position that you thought maybe needed to go a little longer, definitely talking about that. The way that you like to kiss, let's go back.
Huge.
Let's go back
to
the basics.
Yeah.
The way that you like to kiss, something that I found that even with couples who've been together for a really long time, they don't spend a lot of time kissing. So if they don't particularly like their partner's kissing style, it never comes up.
Right.
So what I ask them to do is to sit down and very purposely sit next to them on the couch, and the person who knows how they want to be kissed or wants their partner to react a little bit differently to kissing, I'll ask them to kiss them the way that they would want their partner to kiss them back, and then not stop until their partner is mimicking what they're doing and they've got it. So sometimes it can be a little bit too slobbery, sometimes it can be a little bit too much of a peck, too
Not
open
enough
mouth,
tongue,
not
too
enough
much,
tongue,
right.
too much hair pulling, or
Right.
too much
Too much
grabbing.
passion, yeah.
Too much. But all you have to do is role play that and show your partner that that's what you're.
Or find a YouTube video, you know,
Yeah.
see, you know, what you can find on YouTube and say, okay, that's something that I've been trying to communicate to you. Some people are visual, so
Yes,
seeing someone
that's
else
true.
do it can really help.
But that's
Yeah.
a quick fix, and their partners will appreciate
Right.
that you've given them a chance to fix it, because a lot of times there's a lot of resentments, just
Yeah.
relationship wise, and oh well, every time I give feedback it goes badly, so they don't even bring it up, and they
Right.
don't get a chance to fix something that feels so important to them, like a
Exactly.
kiss.
And I think, you know, both men and women are guilty of wishing their partner could just read their mind. If he, you know, he should know how to do things the way that I like. And
We've been
oh,
together
it's-
for 20 years.
Right,
Why
should
doesn't he know
by
that?
now. And, you know, again, we can't read minds. You know, you have to give feedback. And if you value a strong sexual connection in your relationship over the long run, it's good to talk about it. I mean, I've had couples come in who've been married for 25 years and never shared their likes and dislikes. And then it's usually not until, you know, something goes wrong where they're finally opening up that door and the partner's sitting there like, why have you never said anything to me about this? And
You
then
didn't
it
give
feels
me a
like wasted
chance.
time. Yeah.
You
So
didn't give me a chance.
right.
You know, and talking, like, we can give you some tips right now about the types of things to cover. So, the type of touch that you like, all
Yes.
over, you know, from your head to your toes. What kind of touch? You know, some people really like a very deep touch. Some people like light caresses.
Right.
You don't know that. I
Right.
mean, and so what I'll ask them to do, and if you don't mind, I'll use your hand. So, when it comes to couples massage, which is a big part of kind of the sensual experience. So I'll ask their partner in office, turn your hand over, and I'll ask them from a 1 being like a light caress to a 10 being like deep, you know, Swedish massage, kind of deep tissue. I'll ask them what they would prefer during sex. And most of them will say anywhere from like 3 to 8. It just depends. And I'll ask them if it's, let's say they say 3, I'll ask them to touch their partner at a 3, and then their partner will do it back, and then we'll make sure that
Right.
they've got it. Because if you think that a 3 is like this, and your partner's like, no, it's like this, just right there's this
Yeah.
miscommunication that can be easily remedied, but you have to address it.
If you want to
Thank
keep
you.
mimicking the Swedish massage, I'll take more of that. No, but I think that's really good. And I like the way that Patty Britton, she's a sex therapist, I think based in California, I want to say, but she differentiated the kinds of touch. So she talks about, you know, healing touch. And I think a good example of this is, you know, if you are getting a massage or letting your partner shampoo your hair, that kind of nurturing, healing touch is something that some people like about a lot. There's more of a sensual touch, there's affectionate touch, and then of course there's erotic and sexual touch. So sometimes, you know, it's just finding the vocabulary to
Yes.
describe what you want. And, you know, again, that's where a sex therapist can help, because sometimes you don't know what you don't know, or
Right.
you don't have the words to explain it. So we can help with that.
And what's great is that, you know, a lot of times people will say, oh gosh, as a sex therapist, you must talk about spicing things up all the time. And the truth is we really don't. That's a small part.
know.
You know, fortunately we have lots of resources outside at the grocery store
Yeah.
where people can learn that sort of thing. But when it comes to your relationship's ability to communicate about these things, that's a deeper issue.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
it doesn't always have to be because there's a boundary between you. It may be your upbringing is different than your partner's. It may be that you've had that communication experience with somebody else that went really badly, and you decided, okay, I won't be doing that anymore, and you shut down.
Right.
So we can help tease that apart, and
Yeah.
that's not that hard to do for
Right.
us. So you come in, we can handle that sort of thing,
Yeah.
and that can be a great catapult to the next part, which can be really spicing things up
Right.
actively.
Absolutely. So I think, as you just mentioned, well, there's 2 things I want to say. One, yes, when it comes to spicing things up, what we'll do a lot of times is provide couples with a book or a DVD or, you know, an online video or something like that, and say, okay, here, go try this at home, and then come back and we'll talk about it. So we're not usually spending time in the office saying, you know, put your leg here, put your arm there, you know. But then on the flip side, I think that this is kind of important to note that there are couples who maybe, live some kind of kink or, kink or poly lifestyle who will come to see one of us because they know that we're comfortable talking about that sort of thing.
Whereas they might not have that experience with
aren't.
someone else.
Yeah.
So we can talk about managing some of the less traditional experiences for people, both sexually and emotionally, and with their love expression. Also, so when we talk about activities, it may be as simple as switching up location. It may be as simple as switching up what you wear. Sometimes it could just be setting aside more time. It doesn't have to be these huge, real life-changing, you have to move apartments and you have to go on vacation.
Create a sex dungeon or something.
Exactly.
You don't have to get complete 50 Shades of Grey style unless you want to, and we can help you with that too. But, a lot of times it is like introducing a new sex toy or, maybe removing a sense. So like using a blindfold or, gently handcuffing your partner to the bedpost. I mean, it's little things like that can add eroticism in the long run.
And when it comes to relationship therapy with this, is that all of these things, some of you might be like, oh yeah, done. Others of you might be like, oh, I could never have my partner, handcuff me or take away a sense or not. And we need to go deeper into that.
Yes.
Why not? Not that everybody should and it's for everyone, but why not? Why not feel vulnerable in that way? And it could be that there's a relational issue that maybe a wall up, certainly that could be the case for you. And we can definitely talk about that as well.
I do think as people get older and mature, a lot of what is natural, like feeling more comfortable trying something new or expressing a need, most kids don't have a hard time with that. But as we get older, I think there's a narrowing of the mind that occurs. And so I always remind people, look, you did it once in your life. It's not something you have to create. You just have to reconnect with that part of yourself. So maintaining curiosity, having a willingness to explore. I mean, it's that level, I think, it's more of a state of mind than it is a specific activity. And, the activities will follow.
Yeah, absolutely. Because especially if you have that openness, it's like I'll try anything once kind of situation.
Sure.
But it doesn't always have to be exactly like your partner says, I want to try this, and oh man, I'm a bad partner if I say no. There could just be a discussion.
Yeah,
exactly. Oftentimes I have women who will come into the office and their partners are with them, and I'll go through kind of a little inventory of what's part of their sexual repertoire, and some sort of oral stimulation is off the table completely. But when you ask their partner if they know why, they have no idea.
Yeah,
they just know.
There's an automatic limbic system reaction, and that's the response. It's an automatic, no, I would never do that. And then there's no follow-up as to, well, why? Why am I having such a
Because they
strong
don't want to
reaction?
be intrusive and say, no, you have to, and I want to know why. And they just kind of say, okay, that's your boundary. But then years later, when they are talking about trying to spice things up, and I bring it up in my office, all it takes is a few follow-up questions to really figure out why. And all it takes is a few follow-up after that to figure out that it's really not a hard no.
Yeah.
So that's something that can happen with both men and women when they're coming into the office to try to figure out how to spice things up.
I really think the more safety you have, I think safety is a big piece of this. The more safety that you have in your relationship, usually the more comfortable you'll be to step outside the box a little bit. I love the way Sue Johnson used the analogy. She said the more securely attached you are to the zip line, the more you can let go and enjoy the ride, right? So if you have a healthy attachment, a secure attachment, if there is a strong foundation of trust and safety in your relationship, usually with that, then you can introduce some of these without worrying that your partner is going to judge you or criticize you or be overly reactive.
Or that your partner's going to have to say, oh, you're interested in that? All right, well, let me start doing my homework and let me set it up for this weekend, and runs with it.
Right.
Which is another reason that I found some people just don't bring it up because they're concerned that they're going to then be held to this expectation and accountable. Yeah. So there's so much that we could talk about when it comes to expectations and how to spice things up, and simple things, a little bit more deeper things. We'd love to get your comments and suggestions and questions online. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, websites, all of
Yeah.
it. We want to hashtag hot seat. That's how we know that you're asking us our questions. And we'd love to talk to you about it online and maybe even in person in our offices soon.
Yes. Thanks for joining us.